Aloha. My name is Roger Jelinek. I'm Executive Director of the Hawaii Book and Music Festival. And it's my pleasure to welcome the attendees and also Mindy Pennybacker and her moderator, Toth Fox. And I think you're going to have a very good time. This is a book with a mission. With that, I'll lead you to the mission. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Thanks, Roger, and welcome to everyone who's here tonight on a Friday night. What are you gonna do, Mindy? Look at all these people that showed up for you. It's great. So I'm Catherine Toth Fox. I am the editor-at-large at Hawai'i Magazine. I'm here because Mindy's a friend, because Mindy had asked me to participate in the book that she's written that will be out in April of next year, called Surfing Sister at Hawaii. And I'm so excited to be part of this discussion and to talk story about, our favorite subject, surfing. So for those of you who've just joined us, if you could put your name and where you're from in the chat box. So I'll be monitoring the chat box as we go along. And if you have questions throughout this panel discussion, please put them into the chat box as well. And I will be looking through them. We're going to open it up at the end to Q&A. So I'll be looking through those questions and asking Mindy to answer them all. Let me begin by introducing Mindy, who you're all here to hear from. Mindy Pennybacker, a Honolulu native, is a surf columnist for the Honolulu Star Advertiser and former editor-in-chief of Honolulu Weekly, which I really miss, by the way, and The Green Guide, an award-winning national environmental newsletter. The author of Do One Green Thing, her writing has appeared in The Atlantic, Surfers Journal, The Nation, The New York Times, Bamboo Ridge, Glamour, Martha Stewart's Whole Living, and The Village Voice. She has received the National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship and Wallace Stenger, Joseph Henry Jackson, and James Michener Awards for fiction writing. She's a graduate of Punahou School, Stanford University, and the University of Iowa Writers Workshop, and the University of California at Davis, Martin Luther King School of Law. Mindy learned community engagement from her grandparents, Lawrence and Mary Kang, who owned and produced Hom's Kimchi, which I want to talk to you about later, and her mother, Dolly Kang Lott, who taught piano and founded Rainbow Peace Fund and served on the State of Hawaii Martin Luther King Commission. Mindy lives on Oahu, and I can't say this because I don't speak French, but a quaint little village in France, with her husband, Don Wallace, author of The French House, who hopefully will be joining us in some way, contributing editor at Honolulu Magazine and co-founder of the Hawaii Review of Books. In their free time, they enjoy riding waves and consuming local foods on both islands with her son, Rory, and his wife, Caitlin Wallace. So we're so happy that you're here with us today. Mindy. Hi, Mindy.
Hi, Kat. I'm nervous, but I'm less nervous because you're here.
No, don't be nervous. It's like just talking to me.
Yeah, that's true.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Did you surf today?
No, I actually didn't. I had some other things to do. But what about you? I heard you just got out of the water.
Yeah, it was nice. Quick sesh. So
Did it
one of my enemies.
Did the snow come in? Did it come in today?
Yeah, it's coming in. It's like inconsistent. I had to scramble, but yeah, there were some good ones.
Oh, good. Well, good to know. Yeah, so let's just start by talking about this book that I know you have talked to me about this book earlier this year, but yeah, just can you talk a little bit about why you wrote this book, what the theme of this book is, just where this idea came from to write this book?
Well, the idea came from, I just felt, well, it came from the publisher, Bennett Heimer at Mutual Publishing, because for a couple of years, he'd been reading my surf columns in the Star Advertiser. And he said, we should do a book about women surfing. It's really happening. And this was like before the Olympics. Then I would hide from him and he kept finding me and saying, because he lives right in my neighborhood. And he finally convinced me to do it when I decided I was going to leave the newspaper to pursue my writing ambitions, my own writing. And Bennett stepped right in and, wanted his idea to come first. But I realized it was time because the Olympics, Carissa Ward won the Olympics, putting Hawaii smartly back on the map in terms of competitive surfing and Hawaiian surfing. She was the only Hawaiian who medaled in the Olympics. And because their parity of pay for professional women surfers finally happened in 2019. And last year, for the first time, women were allowed to compete at Bonsai Pipeline, which was deemed too dangerous for them since for 20 years. There had not been a professional championship women's competition in the North Shore for 20 years. But also, I just felt like, there had been, with the whole Me Too movement and stuff, there's a lot of abusive behavior by males in the lineup of surfing, and yet women and girls just pluckily continue to surf because we love it and we're addicted to it, and it's nature. And I wanted a lot of people who read the column who weren't surfers and barely went in the ocean loved it because they felt it was a microcosm for society at large. Some of the conflicts, not just gender, but class, natural resource sharing, overpopulation, all of this, over tourism, this all came to a head in the lineups. So it's something I care passionately about. And just coming in from surfing today and rushing to get ready for our prep session, my hair was all wet. I was like, oh my God, my bathrobe sleeve was inside out. And our bathroom's downstairs. I have to run outside in the bathrobe. And I remembered my first column, my debut column, which was about going to my wedding with wet hair because I'd been surfing. And this is my first and luckily my only wedding, but my mother was incensed, but Dawn was totally mellow, and we've been married now for 44 years.
Wow. But when you get a concept like women and surfing, right? How do you even think about where the book is going to be, where you're going to focus that topic? It is so broad, and it does touch so many different, area. You could go in so many different directions with it. What direction did you choose, and how did you come up with that approach?
I decided to follow a first person memoir narrative, the kind of voice, my voice essentially, that's in the columns, and to intersperse my own experience as reported in the columns, my experiences at my local surf spot off Diamond Head, with those of other women. And that was interviewing a lot of other women was the idea of Jane Gillespie, who's the wonderful production director, her, at Mutual Publishing, because you have also published a book there, your beautiful children's book about farmers market.
Yep.
Which you were supposed to talk about.
Oh, I was?
Roger was supposed to talk, someone was, but we'll talk about that too, along with the kimchi. And, and then also there was this, I realized I had to write about the history of women surfing, even though I hate history really, because the only book about the history of women surfing is written by a man. And then I realized there just weren't any books about women surfing. So it's 3 parts. It's vignette profiles of real women surfers today, history going all the way back to pre-Western Hawaiian days, and then current events and how gender balance is gradually being achieved through the struggles of women surfers and just advocates for gender equity who don't necessarily surf.
How did you how did you decide who was going to be profiled in your book? What were you looking for? What kind of women or girls were, did you want to capture for your book?
Well, it just really came about just spontaneously. For instance, we wanted to focus on women who surf for fun, women who don't surf professionally, just ordinary girls and women the girls, of course, are open-ended. They're all ambitious, and they're, as you know, they're amazing. They fly. But I had already interviewed a lot of pros over the years as a reporter, a surf reporter, as well as a columnist. So I had a lot of those interviews compiled and permission to use them. But then, like, you know, I would get my hair cut by someone and it would turn out she's a surfer in Waikiki. And she was like the star of one of our photo sessions at my local surf break, even though she'd never been there before. She just had such panache, Melissa Kerpinski. And then an old classmate of mine, turns out, lives at Makaha. She's lived there for 45 years as a nurse practitioner. And so she introduced me to a lot of people. And because I wanted to profile community as well as individuals. And Makaha is very much a place where it's a whole community of surfers. And it just sort of came together that way. Then the photographer happened, his goddaughter came to the session, this photo session, with 3 of her friends from college, and they were stars too. And then, like, one of the 12-year-old girls was the classmate of the son of Jane Gillespie.
Oh, wow.
And then
It's all
there's just so many
connected.
women I've seen over the years, you know, that I got in touch with.
Is it, I mean, you know, you've been surfing a long time. I mean, I'd love to have you share your, you know, your origin story of surfing with everyone. And also just like how, you know, you've seen the landscape change with more women out in the lineup, probably than, you know, when you were starting out. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Should we show some slides?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the slides. Hit it with the slides.
Okay, so this is me, sad me, with my helmet and my knee brace,
Your knee brace. I love the knee brace.
surfing at Sui's, my home break. And I've surfed at Sui's since I guess I was 15. I started surfing at age 13 or 14 at Queens with my uncle Clarence Shippey Kealoha and my cousin Nalani and her brother Kika Healy. And then I was allowed to graduate and surf in my own neighborhood, where I was the only girl in something called the Tongs Gang. And I hope some of them have logged in, probably not, but they were all boys, but they really taught me to surf. They took me to Sui's, which is a fast, snappy wave, and they were very ambitious for me. So that was in the late 60s. Next slide. Oh, so the book really addresses, as well as the joy of surfing, which hopefully I did convey in my, even with my knee brace on. One of the, you know, the obstacles tend to be, well, like as when I started, obviously, and when you started, Kat, like 20 years later, you told me there were so few women in the water, which is one of the revelations of this book, of interviewing women of all and girls of all ages. Even little girls today think there are hardly any normal girls in the water, just pro women. So what's going on? Well, one problem is the lack of opportunity for girls, the lack of sponsorship, the lack of advertising interest on behalf of the surf companies, apparel, everything, even though women buy all the apparel. So here are some of the obstacles we've had to, the, you know, like the obstacles we've had to surmount, the societal norms purveyed by males, like women cannot surf big waves, illustrated in this slide. That was Emmy Erickson in the middle of the Waimea Bay wave between 2 men. And this, again, women can't surf big waves. This is Kayla Kennelly, who has been the world big wave champ once they finally started having big wave competitions for women with real prizes about 8 years ago. And this was this last year at Pipeline Outer Reefs. Next. Another adage, of course, women can't get barreled, they can't get tubed, and they can't surf pipeline. Okay, so this is Rochelle Ballard, the greatest female tube rider of all time, Kauai girl, getting barreled at pipeline in like 19 96. Next, sorry. Women can't do high performance surfing, so we should just send them out in crummy waves. So this is, of course, our 5-time Hawaii world champ and Olympic gold medalist, Carissa Moore, just having a fun surf at Kuala Basin. Next. And again, women certainly can't surf big barreling waves, illustrated by the one-armed Bethany Hamilton, who lost her left arm to a shark bite at the age of 13, taking a wave at Pipe last winter, Pipeline, where women can't surf. Next. And getting shacked. So these are all the assumptions that males have been drumming onto our heads since the mid-20th century. And they're completely false. And this is the first time Bethany's surfing in the Dahui backdoor shootout. First time they had women surfing because women couldn't get sponsors to sponsor a team. And finally, World Surf League got together some sponsors and entered them because Dahui, they're a local community group. They need sponsors to give prizes and to have security and all that for their really local contest, their fun contest with teams. Okay, thank you. Oh, and then here's another, this is another obstacle, is what I call typical male behavior. So this was a big summer swell at Ala Moana Bowls in June. And here's this adorable woman, just having so much fun, so well put together. And here's this man dropping in on her, just even looking at her. But she's so stoked she doesn't even notice. But this constantly happens to women. Next. And here's another maneuver. This is at Sui's on an uncharacteristically glassy day. It's usually very windy. This is called snaking. So this woman on her longboard has taken off outside and she's riding the wave. She's probably ridden it for quite a while. And now this guy, it's rebuilding and he's taking off in what is called the peak of the wave. So technically he has priority because he's taking off deeper. And he's probably going to zoom over and, hey, you're in the way, I have priority. But actually he's a snake. Typical male behavior. I'm sorry, but there are great, wonderful men too. And the book is full of them, even young guys. I mean, they're so sensitive, but you know how it is about one bad apple. Okay, and then the other wonderful obstacle is women have less time to surf than men. And all the women I talked to corroborated this. We're the primary caregivers usually for children and parents. And we have to manage the household as well as work our own jobs for money. So this is a member of a wonderful group called Surfing Moms. She's in the Kailua chapter. And it was founded by a woman named Elizabeth Maiden, who started surfing in Australia with something called Surfing Mums, and then brought the concept here when she and her husband, who are marine biologists, conservationists, were transferred to Coconut Island in Kaneohe. And so she founded Surfing Moms. Now there's a chapter in Ewa Beach, a chapter, I think in East Oahu, Kailua, Maui, and growing. So they watch each other's children and take turns surfing. Okay, next, I think, and here's just some more pictures from Surfing Moms. So here's some moms leaving while other moms babysit. And then next one. And here's moms coming back. So this is, really the spirit of community that women are just so good at building. And that was one of the wonderful discoveries of this book.
You mentioned about just sort of stereotypes and things that women have had to overcome or to sort of, debunk these myths about women and what they are able to do physically. What have you seen? I mean, what have been your personal experiences with that? I mean, did you have issues in the lineup with men, or did you, what are some of the personal experiences that you've had?
Well, I mean, they were chronicled exhaustively in my column. So I hesitate to repeat them. but they're just pervasive. And like, for instance, since I finished the book, this new creature appeared out at Suey's. And I don't want to be politically incorrect by, talking about his physique or anything, but he's kind of like just in your face. He's very big. He's, from the mainland, but he has, anyway, he just talks all the time, but he was really picking on me, really bullying me for quite a while. And it was really depressing. Like, I'd be paddling out and he would paddle. I'd be paddling to his inside to avoid him if he was taking off, and he'd paddle right at me.
Oh.
And every time I went for a wave, he would drop in on me. He would yell at me and say, you don't know how to surf, get out of the way. So other women were defending me, and he'd start screaming at them. There were all these battles in the water.
Who is this guy? Put him on blast. Put him in the chat.
No, he's really a problem. And even men had told me once he starts, and he's just like, he's not a big guy, but he's round and bulky and very, he has tattoos and messy hair, and he's just, he bites his fingernails. He's totally neurotic. He has this little girl voice. I mean, he's just a piece of work. And even guys have told me, yeah, when I see him, I just go to another surf break because he's such bad energy. But this is the kind of, a lot of the book addresses etiquette, and one of the great vindications and strengths I gained from the book was that all the girls and women I talked to have faced this. And like, even, this cute little girl who's one of the stars of the book, Kapi Makai'au, I think she's going to be a champion. So I asked her if anyone cuts her off in surf sessions. She had come in from surfing for a photo shoot with her dad at Suey's, and they'd never surfed there before. She did really well. It was terrible surf. She did really well. And her dad is obviously so nurturing and just adores her, and her mom is really cool, but her mom doesn't surf. And so they came in and we were sitting at a bench. And so I asked Kapi, well, does anyone cut you off in surf sessions? And she goes, my brother, referring to her younger brother, age 10. Literally every wave I take, he'll try to catch it. And my father, she added, turning to Jared Makai'au, who sat beside her on a picnic bench as they hydrated. Dad will say, go, but then he'll be in the way. No, I never do that, Jared said. Yes, you just did it again out there, Kapi said, pointing seaward to Suey's. Oh, that's because I'm teaching you. You got to learn to navigate around people. Kapi says, but I couldn't go around you. There was no room. You were right there in the way. As Kapi and Jared bantered, it was obvious how close and comfortable together they felt. He is teaching her, I guess, what she has to deal with. But also, Dad, he can't resist. And all the girls I talked to, they surf with boys like I did. They're ostensibly your pal. They encourage you to get waves. They'll shout and really embarrass you. Paddle, paddle, paddle. But they can't resist picking off your wave if they can grab it from you. And that's just kind of male behavior.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that? No.
Of course I have. I surf in Waikiki. Of course I have.
So even though you're such a good surfer now, do you still have people like try to take advantage because you're a girl?
I think it's interesting because, where you surf, you're not going to see a lot of, first timers necessarily coming out to suicides, whereas Waikiki, you sort of like know if you're going to paddle out to Queens or canoes, and sometimes even pops, that you're going to get, newbies. Even Tongs, right? There was some surf schools taking first timers out to Tongs. And what they always say, if you take a first timer to that break, that's the break they're always going to go back to. So, we get a lot of it at Queens and at canoes, we know this. So what's interesting is there's a lot of people that may not know I'm a regular, for example. They see a girl in the water, and these could be, guys that have, some kind of surfing chops, and they're in the lineup, but they don't know me. And it is the most annoying thing when guys tell me, paddle harder, you got this. Like, I don't know. And every time someone yells at me, I will stop. It just
Right.
irritates me. But they'll also start paddling for the wave. And once they do that, I will not stop. I will not stop. Like, I will get on that wave and they can ride it with me and I will go straight and I will ruin it for them.
Yay. Yeah,
Like,
so that's how you teach them.
But I think a lot of women, like you said, I mean, we deal with this in the workplace. We deal with this, like, you know, in classrooms. Like, I feel like it's unfortunate that we maybe become not complacent, but we know how to deal with these situations. We almost accept that it's going to happen or understand it's going to happen, and we shouldn't have to deal with that anymore, ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And yet it just keeps happening over and over. One thing I really liked about your part of the book was when you said that you don't let guys give you a wave.
Right.
Yeah, and you're not going to be grateful. Like, you catch your own wave. But there's so endlessly amazing ways that they can be condescending. Or, yeah, trick you. Like, if I tell her paddle, paddle and embarrass her, then I can get the wave. I know they think that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure most of it is well-intended. But again, it comes back to the assumption that we're weaker, we need extra help. There's no way she could have been surfing for 20 years. You know what I mean? And I don't know so I don't think that they're ill-intended. I think they are really trying to help us. They're really trying to be supportive, but forgetting, right? That they don't know me. They don't know what my abilities are. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a complicated thing. So
yeah, I mean, like Debbie Milliken, who's an ex-pro surfer who surfs at Sui's, she said that for female surfers, getting a wave can be doubly fraught on a watery playing field where we're outnumbered 4-1. 4-1 is the statistic by males. It's because I'm a girl. I've felt it all my whole life, Debbie said. I can tell by the look in their eyes that most men assume I don't know how to surf and won't catch the wave.
yeah.
And she's a really hot surfer.
Yeah.
And even in the book, Carissa Moore talks about how she feels intimidated because there are just always so many more men than women.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bigger and stronger, you know, and it's just in our nature, I guess, like we don't want to be hurt. We know they're bigger and stronger.
Do you think that women have a different connection to the sport than men do, or that they have a different feeling about it, or they approach it differently? I mean, when you were interviewing all these other, you know, female surfers, did you come across that they had a different sense of it?
They totally do, especially as they become mothers, you know, because like they're happy. I mean, when you're just living and surfing for yourself, then you can try to pick your waves. You can drive around the island, you know, and only go out when it's really good, which is like what a lot of men do. Because I don't know how they make a living, but but so many moms have told me, like Kiana Blankenfeld, who's the daughter of Billy Blankenfeld, who was one of the Dahui black shorts guys. Mm-hmm. So, you know, she learned to surf from her dad, who's like a powerful big wave North Shore surfer. But now that she's had 2 little girls, she just is happy to go out whenever she can and just have fun. And the same with Elizabeth Maiden, the surfing moms person. She said, you know, her perspective has just changed. A lot of the Hawaiian women, you know, in Hawaiian communities like Uilani Macabeo and let's see, Kalei, Nakalo in Waipio Valley, and then this lovely couple of sisters, Helena and Ane Bakudis. There's a 20-year age gap between them because their dad remarried. But these women in Hawaiian communities, or predominantly Hawaiian communities, really feel surfing as their connection to their Hawaiian culture and to the environment. Mm-hmm. Very strongly. They feel surfing is like similar to hula, and they feel they need to malama the environment and teach their children to respect it. I mean, they all spoke about this. Whereas I think, the average professional surfer tends to do it in a big sponsored splashy way, go, yeah, we did a beach cleanup. But yeah, I think the women surfer in Hawaii, no matter what their background, their ethnic background, really loves it for the natural connection in our beautiful ocean, and wants to protect our reefs. So they do what they can. They try to educate.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder, because, well, okay, there's the innate competitiveness of the act of surfing, right? I mean, you've got people out in the water and there's one wave, right? So it's this sort of natural competitiveness that comes out. And then we have competitions, and then you have things like time constraints, where people are just like, I only got an hour, I got to catch as many waves as I can. And so it sort of creates this tension or this competitiveness in the water, when maybe a lot of us go because we want to relax and decompress and be one with nature. And so there is a tension created. I know we mentioned about the aggression that women may feel toward, from male surfers. However, they do it to themselves as well. You know what I mean? You see that aggression in the water. It's interesting, how can a woman navigate that when they're not coming to the ocean, they're coming there for, a way to relax or way to feel connection. And there's all this tense competitive energy around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's such a...
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll try to find this one section in the book where that sort of happens. But well, there was a day when I went out to Sui's, and it was 8 men and 2 women. And then one of the women went in, but then the waves got really bad. But the men were very competitive, very tense. They went in, and then gradually women came out, and suddenly it was all women. And the waves got better. I mean, so patience helps, but also encouraging other women to surf and to be confident. One of the things that I learned in this book was I had started to withdraw, from bullying, and just tired of male misbehavior, and being increasingly intimidated, unable to speak up because it was so crowded and men are so much bigger, you can't escape. I mean, you're just looking around trying not to get hit, even by accident. So women met me more than halfway. I started asking stranger women, their names, and exchanging names, hearing their stories, and, getting them into the book. And they had all the same experiences you and I have had. And then we would just we realized we could disarm the men with laughter. If you just sit in a coven of women and just have a good time and talk story and just be mellow, men they just stay away. And I realized that men always talk about how fun surfing is, but they really don't have fun because they're so competitive. They're always watching each other. They have to get the most waves. And I think women understand fun a lot more. And we really appreciate the quality of the wave, not just the number. I mean, sure, and you've encountered women who are just as selfish as men. But I think in general, I was really getting kind of isolated because I mostly surf to commune with nature. I just want to be out there and look at the birds and, the porpoises, and just look at the wind patterns on the water and think about Leahi or whatever. And, but solitude isn't the whole point. It's also for the Hawaiians, it always was being part of a community, having relationships, letting people know you're there, looking them in the eye, communicating, like Kiana Blankenfeld and other women said, just let people know, it's time, it's your turn, and you're going to go. And if they still go, okay, you're not going to fight them physically, but let them know you're aware and smile if if you're feeling friendly. But it's been hard for me because I tend to withdraw. I've always been kind of a loner, and I used to think surfing was the sport of the great loner, but now I really welcome other women out there and, enlightened men and boys. It
Mhm.
makes such a difference, and we can all laugh together and just defuse the situation.
What has the community been like for you? Because you had mentioned early on that, the place itself is its own community, right? So the folks that surf at Makaha, the folks that surf, Diamond Head, right? Everybody, so there's regulars, there's crews, there's the early guys, there's the second shift. I mean, there's the Pauhana guys, right? So what is your community like, and how has that community sort of impacted your life? Because they do. I mean, these people become family because you see them probably more than you see your son.
Well, yeah, since he lives on the mainland.
Yeah.
I guess they, don't really think about it, but I guess they really do mean a lot to me. I mean, we don't see each other outside of the surf. I know you go on surf trips with your surf friends of old, but I don't go on surf trips with mine. For me, it's a big enough trip just going offshore. And I used to be an evening surfer. Now I'm a morning surfer because you don't have the pressure of the sun setting, although you have the pressure of getting to work. And there's a Pilates instructor, and she's a healer and a Pilates instructor. There's an author who wrote, Sydney Iokea, who wrote a book called The Queen and I about dispossession and being Hawaiian. And there's Debbie Milliken, who is a sustainability director now at Punahou School. She loves her new job. And there's Dodie, who used to be an administrator at UH, and she goes on surf trips. She's really petite and super powerful and super cheery, big personality. I don't know, and then there's Boogie Pete, who's central to, everyone loves him. He's, needs a little turtle out there. And then there's Will, the shaper from North Carolina, who retired here. He used to surf here in the 70s. Just a good man, good soul. There's all the people. There's people who are recovering in 12-step, local guys, and who just, they're sometimes they're in a bad mood, sometimes they're in a good mood, but they're part of the community, and you keep track of them.
Mm-hmm.
So people, you can tell when people are struggling. And
yeah, it's interesting how, it can be the great equalizer, right? I mean, anybody can go out and paddle out, and it doesn't matter how much money you make, or if you drove a Tesla there, or, it doesn't matter. It really, the ocean does not care who you are.
Totally said it. It's a totally mixed group out there. And I think that is the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
Although there is a sense of a more cohesive community of locals, say, at Makaha, or, in any lineup, even Sui's, you have to earn your cred. And another nice thing is, there was this group, they're young boys are kind of almost the worst, except they're not big and mean, but they're just always in the way. And one of them has grown up and become a really good friend. He's 21 now. But his dad told me, yeah, I mean, Dakota just loves all the aunties of Sui's. There's Auntie Mindy and Auntie Sydney. But that's a really good feeling, and he always makes sure to say hello and make eye contact. Because once I told him, you know what, I'm a human being, because he kept paddling in front of me. I exist. I'm not a rock. So for 6 years, he's always, hi, Auntie Mindy.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I love the concept of, surfing moms. I've never participated in it, but I see the benefit. It's the whole village mentality, right? And we're all helping each other out, because you are right. I mean, the community can, there is the benefit of having people that in the lineup that you built relationships with. I mean, I've been out there, and one of the other women I surf with, got stung by box jellyfish. And it was the first time she got stung. It happened to be a fairly good day, so nobody really wanted to paddle in with her. I did. I mean, I checked up on her. But because each other, you sort of look out for each other. And the concept of this surfing moms group makes, it's great. I've seen them out at Ali'i Beach Park, for example, where some will sit on the beach and play with the kids, and the moms will paddle out. And like you said, moms, we don't have time. So I don't care if it's terrible today. Like this is the only, I have 45 minutes until I have to pick up my kid. So I'm going to make the most of it. And, you know, it makes me think about how you maybe have grown and how you've changed as a surfer, how you think about surfing from being young, single, and then being a mother. I mean, has that whole experience, your life experience, has that changed the way you surf, how you look at surfing?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, I still really compete with my son now that he's grown up. Even when he was little, he used to drop in on me mercilessly, and I didn't really tolerate it too well. I mean, I don't know. I guess one thing I did, yeah, of course you do change. When I was a girl, I wanted to be like a boy because those were my only role models. There weren't surf magazines with women. There weren't surf films with women. They were just on the beach in bikinis, right? Or Gidget, okay, whatever. But that was a little too early for me. And then, and the boys wanted me to be like a boy. You know, they didn't want me to be soft. You know, they wanted me to like get skinnier and have skinny legs like them, and because they figured that was the only way I could, surf well. It was really hard. And now, I mean, obviously you become a mother and, your body totally changes and you realize, oh, I like my body the way it is. It's meant for, it has its own purpose. And heck, I don't care if I surf like a girl. And then, right. So self-acceptance is important. And yet, body image has afflicted so many young surfers, as you know, as they try to get sponsors and be in advertisements, and especially with social media. But like Susan Orlean wrote that article about the Maui surfer girls in 2002. They all had the same hair. They all, didn't have enough money, and there was a lot of status juggling, and they were kind of parentless, and the status was really important, but that was even before social media. So you were talking in the book about the pressures you see kids undergoing who just, want to compete, but you already have to be like a star, a media star, right? And for girls, it's really hard because of the extra body image stuff.
Yeah, I think Carissa Moore has been really public about her, body image struggles. And that's somebody who, like, physically, obviously has, competes at the highest level.
Yeah.
And, here she is concerned about that. And I think that's just something that it wouldn't have mattered if she competed in surfing or not. It's just something women struggle with. It's just media depictions of women. It's just our own body image issues. And you're right. I feel like growing up, I never saw that many. Well, I don't think I remember even really seeing professional surfers, but I did see a lot of lifestyle advertisements for surfing companies like Roxy, Billabong, and the women that were in those ads were not surfing at all. They were lying on the beach. These companies were selling a lifestyle. They weren't selling, the sport or the athleticism. And, someone like Kayla Kennelly, right? I mean, I think she's been public about that too, about not being able, she didn't have the right look, and it's interesting that women are, I mean, it's not interesting, I guess it's commonplace, but it's sad. I think that women are still held up to that standard. You have to, look good. You can't just be good.
Yeah, well, Kayla has totally transcended it by coming out as the first LGBTQ, pro surfer, and then followed closely by, I forget her name, sorry. But I was thinking about body image, and one thing that really surprised me when I was researching the book was that in old Hawaii, women surfed equally well as men, and they had as much freedom to surf as men. Commoners and aristocrats surfed. And of course, it didn't matter if you were big. And in fact, there's this Peter Puget. Okay, so Queen Ka'ahumanu used to surf with King Kamehameha. And that's something else that's so cool, because couples surfed together, they flirted, they fell in love in the waves. And now it's like mostly men and women just fight in the waves. And if you don't want anyone to like flirt with you, because, you know, sexual harassment. So everything's changed so much. But often in these old stories, it would be the woman who would come on to the man, you know, because she would feel so confident. And so, but like Ka'ahumanu and Kamehameha would go out in a canoe to this place off the Kohala coast with their boards, and then jump off the canoe with the boards and surf through this little keyhole into a basin.
Wow.
It was like really extreme surfing. And then Ka'ahumanu was the daughter of the Maui chiefess Namahana, who was reckoned one of the most expert at surfing, according to Peter Puget, a lieutenant who sailed aboard the Discovery under George Vancouver. Puget recalls walking in 1794 with Namahana and her husband, Big Island Chief Keeaumoku, to a small stony beach where the natives were amusing themselves in the surf on swimming boards. There, Namahana immediately stripped naked, and she, certainly notwithstanding her corpulency, performed her part with wonderful dexterity. The first sea or surf that brought her into the beach was immensely high, and on its top she came, floating on a broad board till the breaker had nearly reached the rocks and then suddenly turned.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing to me that women were so equal in the water, and there was a way they escaped the kapu on land. You know, they totally were free in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many instances where, in like the old Hawaiian newspapers, where women beat men in surfing contests.
Wow.
Then you come to the mid 20th century when surfing becomes popular and women are suppressed because men want all the money. And that's pretty much what happened for the next, 70 years until a recent parity of prize money. By then, a lot of damage had been done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We can't be bitter. Oh, but is Colin still there? Can we see more slides?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
We have to show you surfing.
Oh, I'm somewhere.
Yay!
They're over there.
Beautiful.
That's at Queens. I still have that board.
It's a nice board.
Takayama. It's like
Oh,
it's like the original surf tech. Yeah. Anyway.
so Donald Takayama inspired Joey Hamasaki, who was the first competitive surfer from Hawaii to compete in major contests, and the first, as far as I can tell, pro woman of color surfer. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, these are two girls going surfing at Waikiki on that big hurricane day a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They look totally fine, relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Next, please. Oh, so here's Joey Hamasaki. So look at her in the 60s at Huntington Beach. Does she look a little different from the other? Anyway, she was a wonderful surfer, very quiet, but she retired early and came back to Honolulu. It was, I don't know, she had a hard time. Next. But here's Joey in a nice Makaha wave. So she almost looks like Takayama, yeah, her style. I mean,
Actually, she does. I was just thinking about that. Mm-hmm.
She surfed with him at Bowls. That's where she met him. And then he invited her to come stay with him and his wife in California and all these other Bowls surfers. And she got a job as a glasser. She's also the first woman probably to have a job in the surfboard industry.
Wow.
But everyone speaks so highly of her, you know, the old timers in California. Okay, next. Oh yeah, and this is a photo by Leroy Granis. Okay, so then here is, in the front is Helena Bakudis, and in the back is Miley Brennan, Miley Kalama actually now, and just having fun at the Buffalo Big Board Classic last year, the first one after the pandemic, the return of the Buffalo Big Board Classic. I guess it's 47th year. So next. Oh, and this is one of my surf buddies. Finally, after surfing with those boys for years, I met Keani Reiner at Punahou. She was one of my classmates. We finally had a class together and we surfed all the time. She'd come over and she lived in the neighborhood. We'd do homework and then we'd go out at Tongs. And she was the first woman, first of two women to sail on the Hokulea. They sailed on the return trip from Tahiti.
Wow.
First return trip. But she sadly died of breast cancer quite a while ago. But she was really a pal. Next. And this was the first Women of the Bay, Waimea Bay contest being called on. They didn't get enough waves because although the organizer, Betty DiPolito, applies every year for a big wave window, they always give it to the Eddie Aikau. They give the Eddie Aikau a 3-month window. But this might be changing as the city revises its surf rules. We'll see, hopefully. There'll be more flexibility. Should we open up to, questions? Do we have questions, Kat?
No, just people saying hello. There aren't any questions. If you guys have questions, please, I can check. Oh, we have some in the Q&A. Let me just see. We have one from an anonymous attendee who's asking for you to share or describe your favorite wave.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 2 favorite waves. My favorite wave, and I think everybody in their right mind's favorite wave who's, doesn't surf pipe, is Queens. It's like the perfect wave. It may not be anymore because of all the dredging of the coral and everything, but it's the wave of my childhood, the wave where I learned to surf. And that was the first wave I ever rode where it was such a long wave. And you swooped and swooped through all the sections, off the lip, back down, off the lip, roller coasters. My legs were so tired at the end. I was weak. And this is like when I was 15. I mean, I was strong, but it's a great wave. And then my other wave is the Suey's Rights, but it's actually supposed to be a secret. It's a punishing hollow wave. It's almost sometimes like backdoor pipeline. I'm not kidding. It's very strong. It's very shallow. It's very hollow. And it just throws you like a horse, wham, wham, on the shallow reef. But if you pay your dues, every once in a while, the right tide and the right swell direction, it's incredible. It's like Queens. But I don't encourage anyone to do it because you suffer too much. And I like having it to myself.
Our friend Kim Rogers from Kauai wanted to know if we have a cover to share of the book.
Right.
And also, I know you've been kind of reading a little bit from your book, but was there anything you wanted to read, an excerpt that you wanted to read from your book?
Well, as we show the covers, I'll go through it. Yeah, I wanted to. There's something I would like to read.
Okay.
But let's do Colin, let's do this, the slides while I read maybe. Oh, because we want you guys to choose what do you think is the best cover for the book based on what you've heard about the book, however disjointed it may have been. I know you've been concentrating out there and I really appreciate it. So Colin, just show them, like, you might want to make a note. So this would be version 1. Go next. So Colin, just show them. That it? Okay. Well, there are only 3. There's supposed to be like 7. Oh, well. The actual cover I like best isn't even in this. Darn it. This is terrible. I sent it. I sent the photo. Oh, well. Still, a vote would be useful. How will they vote?
I have no idea.
Well,
did you want to read something? I think we have a few minutes. Also, just for those of you who are listening and interested in the book, we did put the link to where you can read more about the book, purchase a book at mutualpublishing.com. It's in the chat box. The book is slated to come out in April of 2023. So check out the link if you're interested.
So the other community of surfing is just your own family. For those who are lucky enough to have a family that surfs, or to have a Hanai Ohana that surf, I guess like with me in the morning people. And I wanted to give a shout out to my classmate, Kathy Terada, who has lived at Makaha for 45 years and surfed with Rel Sun and Pua Mokuau, who are actually the first two female lifeguards at Makaha. And of course, everyone knows about Rel Sun, and Kathy reminisces about not only Kathy, but younger women who were in Rel Sun's Menahuni, who surfed in Biarritz, France. You know, she took them all over the world. They reminisce about her. She was so loved, but so was Pua Mokuau, who I learned about for this book. She was really into Hawaiian culture and restoring the archaeological sites in Makaha Valley and Makua Valley, and gardening and preserving native plants. So at Makaha, just before the end of the road, 2-lane Farrington Highway runs across the sand, splitting the beach in two. When high tides and big waves strike this hard infrastructure, the backwash claws away sand, causing beach erosion that is getting worse with the sea level rise due to climate change. For decades, Buffalo Keaulana, his son Brian Keaulana, a big wave safety instructor, Helena's father Bunky Bakutis, and other West Side residents have been pressing the state to move the highway and the crumbling bridge that carries it over Makaha Stream inland and up the valley. Makaha is such a good place to gather. We want to fight for it to be well maintained and preserved for future generations, Hannah said. What also makes Makaha special, she said, is the way multiple generations surf together. My dad, it's just incredible to me that he's still surfing at 77. My sister's kids are 13 and 9, just starting to really get confident, and we all get to ride waves together, play around, have a good laugh, or an exciting moment seeing the kids do a new trick. Helena's sister, Ane Bakutis, agreed, their Ohana surf outings are the best. What's really fun, no matter what size the waves are, is being out there with Helena, my dad, my kids. 3 generations, it's so awesome, she said. Not only are we all stoked to be with each other as a family, but to be in the water surfing, so it's double stoke. The intergenerational surfing stoke extends far beyond their nuclear family. The thing with Makaha that's different is it's not just about surfing. Your surfing beach family becomes like your personal family, Ane said. There's families we're at the beach all the time, see each other every day, bring each other fish they've caught. And as you know, that's the history of how Waikiki was. Mm-hmm. And it's still possible, Kailua, wherever. And this is like one of the dresses from Kealapiko, which is Ane's environmental fashion enterprise on Molokai. So I knew about Kealapiko before I met her.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so
yeah. I've always loved their stuff. I learned about it from a ocean scientist, conservationist.
Oh, cool. Well, this is a great place to end. Thank you so much, Mindy, for sharing your stories and your love and passion for surfing and getting us all stoked. Now I want to paddle out tomorrow, but I can't because I have a kid. Ruins your life. Anyway.
A beloved obstacle.
You know, at least they grow up. But also thanks for all the folks who joined us tonight. Really appreciate it. It's been like a lively chat. So Mindy, you should go back and look through all the comments. Dawn Wallace was very active on in our chat room. Who's Dawn? And thank you, Roger, for having us. Roger, did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a really interesting session. Learned a lot. I'm not a surfer, but I read all about it in Mindy's column. And so I can make conversation about it with people who don't know. Anyway, I think the attendees enjoyed it. We got a lot more action in the chat room than we usually do, so that's a good sign. Finally, I have my own pitch, which is we're determined to be in person next year. And that takes a huge amount of funding. And so we have a fundraiser on January the 26th. Please put that in your calendar. I'll be reminding everyone endlessly between now and then. And keep our fingers crossed. Again, thanks so much, Kat. Great moderating.
Thanks, Kat. It was really great.
Oh, thank you guys. That was really fun. Anyway, for everyone, have a great rest of the weekend.